Thank you, and good morning. On the budget, as I think most of my colleagues in this room have experienced, there are some years I do very well financially. There are some years not so well. In the years I do well, I don't run out and buy myself a new multi-million-dollar mansion. I'm not buying myself Manola Blahniks and purses because I'm fiscally prudent, and I recognize that my good fortune in one year may not be reflective of my financial situation the next. As a young girl, my grandfather taught me a great life lesson, which has resonated throughout. Always live below your means. Do not spend more than you should. This budget is enormous, and some would say fiscally reckless. Yes, revenues were unexpectedly up, but that doesn't mean that we have to spend it all. We had the opportunity this year to provide meaningful tax reform in a state that has the highest tax arguably in the entire nation. During the pandemic, as our businesses, as our residents were struggling, what did, not on this side, but on that side do, raise our corporate business tax to the highest in the nation, raise taxes and user fees. We've increased our gas taxes where we went from one of the lowest in the nation to now one of the highest in the nation for gas prices. Our residents and small businesses have been struggling to get back on their feet. We could have done so many different things, and instead, once again, we relied on gimmicks. In the past 4 years, our state's budget, as you heard and as you're aware, has increased over $14 billion. I ask each and every one of you who's going to vote in favor of this budget today to ask constituents who call your office how this increase in spending in our state has made their lives any easier or any better over the past 4 years. If we pass this budget today, anyone who votes yes is setting a floor of $51 billion in spending for the future. During my time in this legislature, I've yet to see my colleagues ever embrace spending cuts once the floor on spending has been set. We are entering into what some of my colleagues have indicated as a recession. You heard it from the budget chair himself. Discretionary spending will be down. Inflation continues to skyrocket at the highest levels since I've been born. Gas prices, mortgage rate increases are all going to harm our economy in New Jersey. So I ask, what happens next year when inevitably our revenue drops? Yes, we have a bit of a reserve, but when we can't afford a $51 billion budget moving forward, the very same people touting no tax increases, how this is such a great budget, how this is good for the state of New Jersey, will be left with no other option than to once again raise taxes on the most taxed residents of the country. And when that happens, those increases, those taxes, will be owned solely by those voting yes today. I, for one, will not be one of those people. Finally, just to address the Christmas tree items, unfortunately, most of us on this side of the aisle can't cogently speak to them, as they are pretty much hidden within a 300-page budget document that as of yesterday morning still wasn't available to members of the public. I believe it speaks volumes when Republican senators and left-leaning advocates share the same concerns in an article in the paper, indicating that the lack of transparency in this process must change. The governor is being allowed to spend more than $1.5 billion outside this legislature and without transparency. As we sit here with $248.6 billion of debt obligations and long-term debt climbing $44 billion per year. We could have done better. We should have done better. This is an enormous obligation that we are putting on the residents of this state, and one that I truly do not believe is sustainable moving forward. Thank you.